Hey guys, welcome back to How to Roll Dice. I'm Josh, and for today's daily dive, I wanted to do something with a little more community participation. I wanted to throw a question out there and see if you guys wanted to give some answers in the comments. And for that, I sort of provided this different angle by rotating my room around, or actually, that's not accurate. I moved my microphone stand, my camera, and my light. Rotating the actual room would be quite difficult, so I opted not to do that. Although I still ended up hitting myself right on the bridge of my nose with my mic stand, which hurt a lot, more than I thought it would. But all the pain is worth it to entertain you guys, right? So here's my question. Are there any games that you've purchased that, for all logical reasons, should be a great addition to your collection, right? It's a good game. It's a popular game. There's nothing really wrong with the game as far as its design goes, as far as you can tell from like the rules and from other people's reviews. But for some reason, you just can't make this game work. Maybe it's the way your friend group approaches the game. Maybe it's the type of friends that you have in your friend group, their preferences as to what types of games you play. Maybe you've found some flaw in the game that other people just don't seem to see. I'm curious because we spend a lot of money on these games, and sometimes we spend a lot of time finding them or collecting them. It sucks to have a game that you're so excited to get, and you finally get a chance to play it, and something goes weird, and you're like, we must have gotten a rule wrong. So you play it again, and you double check the rules, and you try it with a different group of friends, and then you put it away for a while, and then you pull it back out, and you give it a handful more plays, and it doesn't work, and you can't figure out why. I have a few games like this. The biggest one is Root. And the reason I don't have that on the table here is because you guys can just go watch my review on that if you want to, but I think I gave that game a 6 out of 10, even though it's like the 2018 game of the year, 2018, 2019. My friend group hates that game, as do I. We played it almost a dozen times, rotating different friends in and out to make sure we weren't stuck with one meta, moving around who played what faction because it's an asymmetrical American-style game, which means not only are you directly attacking and defending against your opponents to take their pieces off the board and to control different areas, but no two factions play the same. The 4 base factions are completely unique in how they behave and the goals that they're trying to achieve. So it's a very cool game, great concept, looks great on the table, beautiful design, unique design, amazingly well sort of produced, like the component quality, 10%, like 10%, 10 out of 10. But when it comes to actually playing the game, we found that no matter how hard we tried, the game ended the same every time, with the Woodland Alliance winning, which is the green faction if you guys haven't played it. And I talked to other people online, and some of them kind of agreed, but most of them said, you're crazy, how could you give this a 6 out of 10? I totally understand, rate games however you rate games, that's your call. But like, we couldn't figure out why this game seemed so flawed, that no matter how many times we played it with different people, mixing the factions up, coming at it from different angles, that it always ended with the Woodland Alliance as just this runaway train, chugging towards victory that nobody could stop. So we don't play Root. And I'm not gonna buy any of the expansions. Some people were like, oh, well, if you add the expansions, I don't buy expansions to fix a broken game. I buy expansions to expand upon a game I already love. That you shouldn't have to spend extra money to make a game you already spent a bunch of money on work. It should just work. Or you should provide the fix for free. If you guys know about Nomad Sky, there you go. Nomad Sky, or No Man's Sky. No Man's Sky, that's what it's called. That's how you should fix a game that's broken, just fix it. But anywho, so that's Root, right? Not a big fan. It's a Game of the Year winner. It doesn't work with my friend group, and I don't know why, it just sits on my shelf. Another one would be, and the one I wanted to show you, Munchkin, right? Munchkin is a simple game. It's a cheap game. There's a lot of different sort of editions of it. There's base Munchkin, which is this one right here. This is Cthulhu Munchkin. There's also like Ninja Munchkin, Munchkin in Space, Pirate Munchkins. There's all different kinds of them. You can mix them together and get silly with it. There's like 00 Munchkin, which is supposed to be like a spy version. And it's a very simple game to understand, to learn, to teach. It's basically you have 2 decks of cards, and players have hands of cards from these decks. And each player is supposed to be an explorer in a D&D-like setting, or the setting of the edition of the game that you bought. And the 2 different decks are basically good things and bad things. I think in the base game, it's treasure chests and doors. And on the other side of doors are monsters. And if you defeat the monsters, you might get a treasure item. And then you attach the treasure item to you, being the character, and you might have a different race, or you might have, different features that you've added to yourself, your character. And then you're picking up weapons and shields and armors like you would in any other D&D game. But it's meant to to be kind of silly. You don't pick up, a magical longsword. You pick up like the +5 chainsaw of bloodlust. Like it's meant to be silly and funny like that. But it works the same as like your typical D&D game. You attach items and features to your character to make them stronger so that when they kick in the door and find the monster, they can defeat bigger and bigger monsters. Every time you successfully defeat a monster, your character goes up a level, which is basically just your victory point tracker. And if you hit 10 victory points or 10 levels, you've won the game. Now here's the flaw in the game when we play it, right? And I want to reiterate, this is a very popular game. You can find Munchkin, many issues of Munchkin usually, in any gaming store that you go into anywhere. Anybody that plays board games probably has at least one edition of this, if not many, just because they liked the idea of owning them all, right? But we do not ever enjoy playing this game. Because here's how the game works. Everybody has a hand of cards. You've got a lot of bad stuff in your hand. That's not for you, that's to throw at other players when they kick in doors. So if a player kicks in a door and there's a monster on the other side, everybody gets a chance to help the monster. You can buff the monster, you can add more monsters, you can debuff the player. Now there's also the ability to help the player. That player can ask other players for help, and if you help them, you get some benefits too, some additional treasure, maybe even a level. But that's not really the point of the game, because why would you want to help them get closer to victory? Everybody just ends up debuffing or the player or buffing the monster or adding monsters or just doing whatever they can to make that player fail when they kick that door open. So if you're playing a 4-player game, every single turn that it's your turn, it's 1 against 3. Because every other player is actively trying to stop you. And then it's the next player's turn, and it's 1 against 3 for them. And then it's the next player's turn, and it's 1 against 3 for them. And there's this sort of never-ending flow of bad stuff that players have access to that they can throw at other players. Or even if, every player doesn't participate in screwing your turn entirely, 1 or 2 other players can easily do it. Because it's not that hard to make a monster or whatever bad thing is in the room almost undefeatable entirely. And so the game never ends, because nobody ever makes it to level 10, and nobody is ever feeling like they're successful or accomplishing anything. You bolt all these cool pieces of weaponry and armor onto your character, and you make them a half-orc, and you give them all these magical abilities, and then you go into a room, and immediately all the players are like, okay, I make that monster double level, and then I duplicate it so there's a second monster, and then I strip you of all your weapons, and then I knock your health potion off of you, and now you die. Okay, next player's turn. And then we do all the same things to that player. So it doesn't seem like there's a way for it to be fun unless you ignore the rules and just like play nicely, which is weird because the point of the game is to be like silly and like over the top. So if you're all just holding hands and getting along, it kind of defeats the purpose of the game. But at the same time, if you play the game by the rules, it's this never-ending, bogged-down, like misery fest that nobody's having any fun in. I actually accidentally made the mistake of playing this game with friends who had been drinking or who were actively drinking while we were playing the game. So if you have any friends that are like angry drunks, this is the worst possible game to play with them. Because like 2 turns in, they're ready to flip the table. Because if you have people that don't feeling like they're being ganged up on, the whole goal of this game is for everybody to gang up on each player on their individual turns. The goal of the game is to gang up on other people and stop them from winning, and it's very easy to do. And so you succeed at it, and the game never ends, and no one has fun. So I don't get how to make this work, but it's a very popular game, and everybody owns a copy, and it's in every single gaming store. It's weird to me. So, do you guys have games like this? Do you have issues like this where you buy a game, whether it's a big expensive game or a cheap little game like that everybody seems to own and love, and for some reason just it doesn't make sense to you and you cannot figure out how to have fun with this supposedly great game? I'm curious. Let me know in the comments. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed my rantings, and hopefully you can take a second to participate because I'm curious. I like talking to you guys. It's fun to learn sort of where you're coming from when it comes to board games and stuff like this. But other than that, I will see you tomorrow. Have a good one.